afternoon, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Today on Newsfeed at noon, results of America's historic elections are trickling in with Donald Trump leading the race for the White House. Here at home, the Office of the Vice President defends the overseas trip of its Chief of Staff amid the House probe into their use of confidential funds. The SUV driver who used the EDSA bus lane with a fake 7 protocol plate has come forward. And Britain's Queen Camilla forced to pull out of her engagements this week due to a chest infection. Thank you for joining us. All eyes on the United States as vote counting continues in one of the tightest and most intense presidential races in modern history. Donald Trump currently leads with 207 electoral votes, while Harris now has 91. They each need at least 270 electoral votes to win the presidency. Trump notched early wins in reliably Republican states like Texas, South Carolina, Indiana, and Florida, while Harris took Democratic strongholds like New York, Massachusetts, and Illinois. As results trickle in, Bitcoin soared to a new record high with traders betting on a Trump victory. The digital currency hit as much as $75,000 on Wednesday, topping its previous all-time peak of $73,000 last March. Donald Trump says he's ready to concede defeat, but only if the elections were fair. The former president made that remark while speaking to the media as he voted in Palm Beach, Florida. Trump has repeatedly said he'd only lose if there was cheating.
To fight for it. And when we fight, we win.
Make America safe again. And we will make America great again.
Shortly after saying he thinks the elections have been fair so far, Trump takes to social media to undermine the credibility of voting in the must-win state of Pennsylvania. Trump claims there's massive cheating in Philadelphia, where voter turnout has been exceptionally high. But he offered no evidence to back this. Philadelphia quickly denied Trump's allegation, calling it yet another example of disinformation. Kamala Harris visits the Democratic National Committee headquarters in Washington, D.C. on Election Day. There, the vice president thanked phone bank volunteers and even chatted on the phone with voters.
This truly represents the best of who we are. Just reaching out to folks, letting them know that we're all in it together, reminding them of the power of their vote, through their voice. This is just the best. And I just thank you all so very much.
A bomb scare hit some polling locations across several U.S. states. In the battleground state of Georgia, at least 2 voting sites were briefly evacuated after being targeted by phony bomb threats. The FBI says these threats appear to have originated from Russian email domains, and none have been determined to be credible. Officials in Georgia also blaming Russia for the incident.
I just want to make sure everyone understands this, that Georgia's not going to be intimidated. The Russia has just decided they picked on the wrong Georgia. They need to pick on the other one in the Black Sea, because we're not going to be intimidated. But we're just excited about where we are right now.
Government officials, industry leaders, politicians, as well as members of the media were invited to an election watch event hosted by the United States Embassy. BNC senior reporter Nancy Carvajal joins us for details. Nancy, what's the latest?
Philippine-U.S. relationship transcends personalities. Whoever wins this election, relationship between the Philippines and the U.S. will remain stable as allies. This is according to Ambassador Mary Kay Carlson. The traditional election watch held by the U.S. Embassy worldwide is a celebration of democracy. Carlson added that the 700,000 Americans living in the Philippines right now is the bedrock and springboard of the people-to-people ties between the two countries. She says the strength that the U.S. Philippines and the importance of the Indo-Pacific to the American people will remain, and that whoever wins the presidential elections today will continue to see very strong bipartisan support not only for the U.S.-Philippines relations but for relationships in the Indo-Pacific and globally. Carlson also said that democracy does not end in voting but actually begins in the counting of the votes. Back to you, Mai.
Thank you for that report, Nancy Carvajal. In other news, the Office of the Vice President defends the overseas travel of its Chief of Staff amid the House probe into their use of confidential funds. The OVP says the trip of Zuleika Lopez was personal and unrelated to her employment. They add Lopez appropriately submitted the required documents, which were approved by Vice President Sara Duterte. The OVP also claims speculations about the purpose of the travel are unfounded and unnecessary. Lopez was among several OVP officials summoned by House lawmakers for a hearing yesterday, but she went out of the country November 4th, with her trip running until November 16th. Local government units told to boost preparations for the possible effects of Typhoon Mar. The Interior Department has ordered LGUs to ensure that evacuation centers are ready. Other agencies like the Philippine National Police and Fire Protection Bureau were also directed to be on standby for possible additional deployment. The DILG likewise called for the establishment of drop-off zones for a more orderly and systematic distribution of relief goods. Typhoon Mar last spotted east of Tuguegarao City and Apari, Cagayan. It is packing winds of 150 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 185 kph. Weather Bureau Pag-asa says Marce has further intensified. It is forecast to make landfall over the Babuyan Islands or the northern portions of mainland Cagayan, Ilocos Norte, and Apayao tomorrow or on Friday. Signal number 3 is now up over the northern portion of mainland Cagayan, while several other areas in Luzon are under signal numbers 2 and 1. Here's a look. We're taking a break. Still to come, the SUV driver who used the EDSA bus lane with a fake 7 protocol plate has come forward. The details when Newsfeed at Noon returns. Stay with us. You're watching Newsfeed at Noon. The driver and an officer of a company that supposedly owns the SUV caught passing through the exclusive EDSA bus lane have come forward. A certain Omar Ginomla, said to be a director of Orient Pacific Corporation, said the SUV is a company car. He could not, however, explain why the number 7 protocol plate was attached to the vehicle. The driver, on the other hand, says he only uses whatever is assigned to him and was unaware that the SUV had an unauthorized plate. The driver also denied he tried to run over a female traffic enforcer after he was flagged. The Land Transportation Office earlier said the protocol plate is fake. They're studying what penalties will be slapped on the driver and the owner. The LTO is also checking the background of the company. Stratbase ADR is holding a two-day conference on the geostrategic landscape. Today, the conference tackles security challenges in the Indo-Pacific, including China's aggressive actions in the West Philippine Sea. Francis Falve joins us live from the Manila Polo Club in Makati for the details. Francis, go ahead.
Yes, Mai, the 20th Filipinas Conference discussed about some strategies to advance Philippine interests in the West Philippine Sea. This morning, Japan Ambassador Endo Kazuya shared insights from their history with China and the conflict over Senkaku Island. The ambassador gave 5 actions they did to guard their territory. Some of these, he says, are already being done to protect the West Philippine Sea. Meanwhile, retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Ray Powell shared some insights about his project Sea Light and his observation on China's continuing aggression in the WPS. He stressed our leaders should take drastic action about China's move to occupy Philippine maritime areas. Powell also mentioned about the possible implications of the U.S. elections in terms of our alliance with U.S. forces and the entire Indo-Pacific region. He was the U.S. Defense Attaché in Australia during U.S. President Trump's term in the office. And if Trump wins today, he thinks the U.S.-Philippine relation will continue or become even stronger. Meanwhile, the Philippine Navy confirms the presence of 2 Chinese research vessels near the Philippine Rise. But according to Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad, the Chinese vessels could have just sought refuge from Typhoon Mar. Aside from that, Trinidad also confirms no records of Chinese vessel aggressions in any part of our disputed territory. He also thinks that whoever wins the U.S. elections today, our ties will continue to be strong.
The U.S., for the most part, when it comes to the West Philippine Sea, is really kind of following the Philippines' lead. You know, we want to know what the Philippines wants from the United States. And so I think that, again, I see a lot of continuity.
You know why the conference is still ongoing, and they are now tackling the aerial intimidation in some parts of the West Philippine Sea. Mai?
Thank you, Francis Falve, reporting to us live from Makati. The number of jobless Filipinos declines in September. The unemployment rate stood at 3.7%, translating to 1.89 million Filipinos. That's a decline from the 4% rate in August and 4.5% figure recorded in September of last year. The underemployment rate, however, climbed to 11.9%. This means there were 5.94 million workers who were already employed but looked for additional work or job hours. HSBC Philippines is optimistic about the country's potential to transition from ASEAN's rising star to, quote, Asia's superstar. The bank expects the economy to grow by 6.4% next year and accelerate further to 6.7% in 2026. That would make the Philippines the fastest growing economy in the ASEAN. HSBC says key factors driving this growth include the country's young and growing workforce, strong inflows from Filipinos overseas, and continued policy reforms and infrastructure investments. To further unlock the Philippines' economic potential, HSBC Philippines stresses the need to address infrastructure challenges and the need to effectively implement trade liberalization measures. MegaWorld's President Lourdes Gutierrez Alfonso makes it to Forbes Asia's list of power businesswomen this year. She is the only Filipino on the list, which honors 20 influential executives from across the Asia-Pacific region. Gutierrez Alfonso became MegaWorld's first female president just this June, succeeding Andrew Tan, who founded the company in 1989. She joined MegaWorld in 1990 and has taken on various roles, including Chief Operating Officer. Gutierrez Alfonso has an estimated net worth of $1.9 billion. Ahead of the travel rush this holiday season, an automobile distributor and a ride-hailing company team up to give commuters another mode of transportation. Our mobility correspondent G. Baroga has the details.
MG Philippines, through its Malabon dealership, signs a memorandum of understanding with new ride-hailing service Pickup, providing commuters with more options.
This cooperation is really developing a new business model of the transportation. So it is really a very advanced business model and also bring a lot of benefit for the passengers in the Philippine market.
Ang objective naman namin, mabigyan ng choice ang Pilipinos. No? Binuo namin to para sa kapwa namin Pilipino.
The MG4 pure electric hatchback will be utilized for this partnership, named Pickup Blue. The companies aim to roll out an initial 20 units from a target of over 2,000 within 1 to 2 years.
MG4 is one of the best-seller EV model globally for MG. The choice of the MG4 to have this business is really because this product is a reliable product and a globally designed best product.
One of the main highlights dito kasi ay yung sustainability. So makikita ng mga tao na makakasakay sila sa 100% electric vehicles. So hindi siya common na vehicle.
Currently, Pickup's services are limited to Luzon, but they plan to expand nationwide and even beyond the country soon. For BNC Mobility, G. Baroga.
We're taking another break. Up ahead, Britain's Queen Camilla pulls out of her engagements this week due to a chest infection. Keep it here on Newsfeed at noon. You're still watching Newsfeed at noon. Spain's Prime Minister vowing financial aid for victims of the country's worst disaster in modern history. Pedro Sanchez says 10.6 billion euros, or more than $11 billion, have been earmarked for people affected by massive flooding last week. At least 217 were killed when floods hit the eastern region of Valencia. Nearly 90 others remain missing.
La inversión total de todas estas primeras.
The total investment of all these first measures taken is going to exceed, you see it there. There is a mistake. It is not 10.27 billion, but 10.6 billion euros. We will give you the exact and concrete breakdown this afternoon so that you have these amounts. There are 10.6 billion euros for this first response of the first of the phases of this immediate response plan of reconstruction and relaunching of the Valencia region.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has fired his defense minister Yoav Gallant. Netanyahu cited what he calls a crisis of trust for his decision. He appointed Foreign Minister Israel Katz to succeed Gallant. Gallant and Netanyahu have clashed for months over the war with Hamas in Gaza. Gallant has said the war lacked clear direction, while Netanyahu asserted that the fighting will continue until Hamas is wiped out.
In the midst of a war, more than ever, full trust is required between the Prime Minister and the Minister of Defense. Unfortunately, although in the first months of the war there was such trust and there was very fruitful work, during the last months this trust cracked. Significant gaps were discovered between me and the Minister of Defense Gallant in the management of the campaign, And these gaps were accompanied by statements and actions that contradict the decisions of the government and the decisions of the cabinet.
In Britain, Queen Camilla forced to pull out of her engagements this week after suffering a chest infection. Buckingham Palace says the 77-year-old wife of King Charles is currently resting at home. No further details of her illness were given, as is usual with royal medical issues. But the palace notes Camilla very much hopes to recover in time to attend Britain's remembrance events this weekend. And before we go, a local cafe in Virginia took a different route in encouraging Americans to vote. It whipped up cakes and breads with the word vote and the face of Democratic bet Kamala Harris, and the treats quickly sold out.
Kamala wins today, we're hoping and praying. Also, getting people to vote for today is our main goal today.
And have you been selling out?
So we have sold out. These are our last couple that we have in storage for the rest of the day today.
Our goal is to make people smile, to bring enjoyment. And, I employ people on both sides of party lines. So, as a business owner, it's the most important thing for me is to take care of my employees. So I want to create a culture of honor among the staff, a culture that's supportive of all people, protecting, our ability to work together.
And those are the news this hour as the world anxiously waits for the official results of the polls. Catch BNC's special coverage of the 2024 U.S. presidential elections hosted by Jamela Alindogan and George Cahiles. That starts at 2 this afternoon. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Good afternoon.